Hey, True Crime Guardians. Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today I want to give a quick update in the Celeste Rivas Hernandez and David case. A new post is circulating from SF Investigates, which is the private investigator Steve Fischer, about an item he says was found at the Hollywood Hills rental tied to the investigation.
You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say and can will be used against you in the court of law. You have the right to talk to a lawyer and have them present with you while you're being questioned. If you cannot afford to hire a lawyer, one will be appointed to represent you before any questionings if you wish. All right. You good, dude?
Fischer has publicly stated he was retained by the property owner of the Hollywood Hills residence and that he does not speak for law enforcement. He says his scope is focused on what did or did not happen at the house and preserving house-related information to share with investigators. In his latest post, Fischer says he previously described certain items at the Doheny address as items you would expect to find on a farm. He specifically names one item as a BurnCage incinerator. He points out that it's advertised to burn at 1600 degrees Fahrenheit. He also says the unit was new and still in the box, that it was not taken during the search warrant. He also claims the delivery was made under a false name, even though it was accepted at the property. For basic context only, a BurnCage is sold commercially as an outdoor incinerator, and the manufacturer marketing says it burns up to 1600 degrees Fahrenheit for things like yard debris. Fischer compares the 1600 degree Fahrenheit figure to cremation temperatures. Industry references generally describe cremation retorts operating in a range that can be roughly 1400 to 1600, depending on jurisdiction and equipment. So the temperatures are in the same neighborhood, but that comparison alone doesn't establish what any device was intended for or used for. Fischer also says an incinerator isn't legal to use within city limits. Outdoor residential waste burning is heavily restricted in California, including limits on using burn barrels or incinerators for disposal in many circumstances. Exact legality depends on the location and the rules, but the general regulatory environment is very strict. What's confirmed from official sources is that LAPD served a search warrant connected to this investigation and said items of evidence were recovered for analysis. What's not confirmed publicly is Fischer's specific claim about this BurnCage item, whether investigators documented it or why it would or wouldn't matter in this case. This is the actual picture that Steve Fischer posted that was allegedly from the house. For now, we have to treat it as a claim that's made by a private investigator instead of law enforcement statement. But if LAPD or any other prosecutors ever address this specific item, I'll definitely update that directly. And this is the direct X post from SF Investigates, or Steve Fischer, if you will. Although my words have been misquoted by some, what I actually said about certain items found at the Doheny address was that they were items you would expect to find on a farm rather than in a home in the Hollywood Hills. One of those items was a BurnCage incinerator, advertised to burn at 1600 degrees. Human cremations are typically performed at approximately 1400 degrees. An incinerator is not legal to use within city limits and serves no legitimate purpose as a residential property in the Hollywood Hills. Some will argue that this item was intended as a prop for a video. If that were the case, it raises several obvious questions. Why would a 55-pound BurnCage be delivered to a private residence instead of directly to a prop designer or production house? Why would it be ordered before departing on an extended world tour? And why was it never used in any video production? It is also important to note that there were additional items present that could be used in conjunction with the BurnCage. To be very clear, this BurnCage was not used. It was still new and in the box. However, given that Celeste Rivas Hernandez's remains were ultimately found in the Tesla frunk, the presence of an incinerator at the same residence associated with that vehicle necessarily raises questions about intent. The BurnCage was not taken during the search warrant, and because it was not used, it appears it's not of importance to any possible criminal investigation. But we think it's important context, even if not criminal. The BurnCage and other related items were delivered to the residence under a false name, although the deliveries were accepted at the property. Attached is the photograph of the BurnCage incinerator as found at the residence, along with an image from Dr. Burn's advertising materials for the product. That's all I got for you this afternoon. Leave a comment below, like and subscribe if you will, and as always, thanks for hanging with you.